Hey there YouTube, welcome back to the Allegheny Northern in N scale, and this is the February 2022 update. February has been a very busy month as far as modeling goes. So once we let this train pass here, we'll go ahead and get started with all of the updates for the month. And yes, you will notice that there was a DPU on this particular train. I'm trying something different because what was happening is the skeleton cars were getting up to the S curve, which is going up 2% grade, and they were jumping the track. So the first thing I did was I took the metal wheel sets off the leading cars where all the couplers are, replaced them with the plastic micro trains. They got a little bit bigger flange. They're not as prototypical, but they do stay on the track one hell of a lot better. So, and that didn't quite solve the problem. And so I watched enough derailments to get an idea of what was going on, and it was just a matter of the car being too light in the curve and there being too much weight behind it. There's 5 of these 5-car sets there, so I said, well, you know what the real train model railroad would do in a case like this is they would put distributed power on. So I did that, and it did indeed reduce the lateral forces on the train, and as you can see, they do go right around. So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get into the update. First thing for the update, the upper deck now has what I'm calling a fascia. Well, it's not necessarily pretty, but all I needed it for was to hold on to these little switches. And these little momentary toggles are now powering a good number of the turnouts here on the layout. So I have from my control panel down the left side all the way down through the intermodal yard, and then up to the upper level here, and then down through the coal yard here, and then into the downtown area. And you can see all of those are in, and they are all wired. And you can see that's pretty much where I left off with the wiring, because it's sitting there on the tracks. And I'll tell you what, this is a very slow process. I can only get a handful of these things in an hour. I'm about 36 or 37 of them in, and there's 80 of them total. So I've been working on this pretty much all year. So it's been it sucked. That's the best way to put it. It's not a fun project, but the rewards are big, and as soon I will get these labeled. The toggle here is close in proximity to the turnout that it controls. So like I know that this one here is controlling that turnout here, this one here, so on and so forth. But I'm going to get it labeled, have a nice little diagram on here to show you which turnout it's actually turning. So go ahead and get that set up here. That's not a high priority for me because once again, I'm the only operator, and if I'm confused as to which turnout it's turning, boy, that's really a problem since I installed all of it. Before we go on to that, the wiring, I'm going to take you under the layout here for just a quick second. It's not pretty, but it's all black and it's red, so I kept with the Kato wiring system. And let me show you what I had done here, and I'm not going to do it on this second go around, but I had pre-wired a bunch of these little guys, and the problem is I tried to keep the wires nice and clean and tight, but these are solid strand wires. There's no copper twists, braids in there, and trying to get the braided wire attached to it, not a good idea. So, and nor if you looked at here, did I leave myself enough lead to even do that? So this was really not the right way to do this. Unfortunately, I have done a good number of these, well, 30 some of them, before I realized, hey, bonehead, you're doing this wrong. So for the rest of them, I have a totally different way of doing it, but for right now, and you can see that what I've been doing is stripping the wire off in the center, making my power connections there. That now powers both ends of the double pole, double throw and then the turnout control just goes right in the center. So it's not a great system as far as what I've done there, but it's working, and it's also adding to the time it's taking me to do these things. But once you get them on there, there is a totally separate DC power supply that's running nothing but these controls. So the reason I'm putting a push on getting these controls wired in, one is operations. There's too much damage happening to the layout with scenery trying to throw switches when operating. So I need to get away from the layout, and this keeps all of the operation right up, in front. The other reason is eventually I'm going to start signaling here. That's hopefully a 22 modeling year project, and in order to do that, I want to be able to have the power to the turnouts, so that if there's any signals that I end up linking to the turnouts, they're ready to go and they're powered. So that's coming up. Let's jump back over here. I'll show you some of the new pickups for the month. Okay, so this is one of the micro train sets. It is a Norfolk and Southern maintenance of way train, and it comes already weathered. I absolutely love the faded Southern on there, and you could see that this was obviously put into maintenance of way service, and they just stenciled the number on the side. All the other reporting marks are sort of missing. Here's a converted box car, flat car with some generators, fuel tank, toolbox, and then the crew cabins. Now, as you're looking at this, I know your first thought is, well, how in the hell do you move that train with those stairs on there? Well, I was wondering the same damn thing, actually. And so I went and I looked at what the real one looks like, since that is obviously what I'm trying to represent here. And these are removable. They actually don't mount to the car. They clip on, much like you'd see on a construction office trailer or something. So I figured, well, I better make mine do the same. So these are all loose. And when this train goes into motion, I can just pick these up, take them off, and store them. And I know what you're saying, oh, that's a pain in the ass. Yeah, it is. But the number of times that the maintenance away train is actually going to be running around the layout's probably not very high, so it's not a big deal. So for storage of these things, what I was thinking about doing is I'm either going to make a box car or a gondola that I can just store them in, so when the train's in motion, they're inside the box car underneath a gondola load, something. You won't see it, and then it'll be, it'll be perfect. You set it up wherever you're going to set up your crew quarters. But they don't come painted. You got to paint them. You got to put the decals on, but it's okay. As far as the crew cabin goes, and then the equipment on the top, the rails, the ladders, none of that's assembled. You got to build all of that. You got to paint it all. The only thing that comes weathered is the cars. It's a nice set. I do like it. I wasn't real thrilled about having to put the decals on. They're a pain in the ass, and they give you enough to do it once. So if you screw it up, then you don't get a second go. Fortunately, didn't have any problem with that, so everything is on, and yeah, they're pretty cool looking. Okay, I flagged past it a couple of times here, so now it's time to show you that started roughing in the terrain here for the city, and basically trying a couple of different techniques here. So this was the first time that I used the wire cutter to shape the foam. It's not nearly as messy as a knife, and it does a decent job, so no complaints there. Put in some of the paper mache. It's a celluclay type product. Got that all into place here, so once that dries, everything get a nice coat of paint, and we can start getting our town built. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump on over to the other side here. So one other scene that I've sort of been flagging by but haven't actually stopped and showed you was one of the first videos of the month of February. It was a how-to video, and that was how to make a building under demolition. And so now that it's nested in its scene, this is where it's finally at. And there's that little toy dozer that got a paint makeover. Looks pretty decent now. Doesn't look like a plastic toy anymore. And thanks to everybody who helped me source this model and tell me what it was, because it showed up. There was no packaging details. It was just basically in a Ziploc bag. No instructions on how to put it together, although it wasn't terribly difficult to figure out. And now that the demo excavators are all weathered up and detailed out, this looks like an active construction scene here, and so I'm very happy with the way that turned out. But I know that this building was supposed to be I think it's supposed to be like a bombed out post-apocalyptic based on the comments that I've seen on the video, but that doesn't really fit what I'm doing here. So demo scene it was, and some of those techniques that you would use for a bombed out building, still apply to a demoed building. So had a little bit of fun with that project. It's always nice to take on something that's not the same, painting this building straight building colors and painting that building straight building colors. It's kind of fun to do something a little bit different. So the demo offered that to me, and I love the way those demo excavators came out. The washes and even the track detail, really just, it makes those models are very well detailed, and that weathering just brings that detail out even better to the eye. And it's a shame that you can't find them anymore. I hope if that company did go out of business, that somebody ends up buying the dies for them to start making them again, because I know I'd pick up a few, and I've seen others in various chat rooms and whatnot trying to find these things, and I just like to see them come back. They're even becoming scarce on the bidding sites now. So if you're trying to look for them on eBay or something like that, they're not real easy to find. But in any event, that's our demo scene. So I'm going to handle. There's still some detail that needs to be added to it as far as construction equipment and stuff like that. But by and large, that's going to be us. I did complete my power wiring down through the city streets here. I know I took a huge chance. It's right on the front of the layout, but there shouldn't be any reason for, I'm hoping the column that's holding up the house here is going to protect it a little bit. But I just sort of dyed it between those two buildings there. This is the Woodland Scenics system, and I know when I did the review on it, I was pretty stoked on it. I didn't like the way the kits connected. I thought that was really wonky, but the set in general, I gave a favorable review, and I thought maybe, okay, well, the first time I installed it, it was probably just me. But the more I've worked with these things, the more I realize it's just not a good system. They look good. I mean, as far as like the poles are excellently painted, and they give you the little metal guy wires here that you can put from the sidewalk up. So that's really cool. And then the connection kits to the buildings. But the wiring itself and the joining of the kits, it's just too wonky, and it's really, I have a hard time justifying the cost for the amount that I need, and the pain in the ass situation that you get in trying to put them together. So I think if you had a small layout and you only had a kit or two, then this would be an okay system. It's just the number of kits that I need and the number of kits that I've used and tried to join, and you're really just getting black thread. But it's just, there's better ways to do it, I guess is the way I'm saying. So, I've tried multiple techniques, and I still get wonky wires. They go sort of wrinkly, and they just don't look right. And it's my favorites. My favoritism of this thing is sort of waned a little bit, I guess we can say. But I did finish the town because I was already committed, and I'll take you to the other side here and show you that I can finish it on the other side. So on this side, I had the more rural-looking poles on our side of the track here, so to speak, and I ran it to these industries. Actually, this is a Atlas pole that I modified to match everything else here, just as a service line. But then I grabbed the ones in the back there, and I ran them all the way down, and so now they're ending right here. And I've got to determine whether or not, technically I was supposed to go the rest of the way around here. I might still do that by one more kit and then divorce myself from the Woodland Scenic stuff. I haven't decided yet. In any event, I'm probably still going to use their detail kit for the weatherhead and the meter, because that looks okay, and I can come up with my own system for that. So anyway, that's just me thinking out loud here. The other thing that I did was I got this all cut into place and glued into place now, so that there's a nice sweeping curve that comes up, and the trains can get onto the dock area here. And I've done nothing with the dock. In fact, I've actually taken it apart a little bit, and here's a bunch of these wires, and they're all soldered together here for the switch machines. They just need, the other end needs plugged in under the under the turnouts here. I'm not looking forward to doing that, because once again, I still have to trim all the wire off of this to join those, and of course it's a yard, there's a ton of them, so not looking forward to doing that. If you followed the Instagram for the channel, then you saw that this was a 3D printed dozer. I got this weathered up and painted and weathered up, so I'm happy with the way this little guy came out. He's going to go down into the coal mine here. So let's go take a look. There were a few more items in the 3D printed category, so I'll show you those. They are in progress. Okay, so at the workbench here, I am in the process of finishing up some of the 3D printed vehicles. The first is this tractor trailer. It's got a, I think it was a 75 ton is what it was, low boy. I've got it painted in a nice shiny red here. I've got the truck in a silver and a blue, kind of a little bit of a, kind of an American Pride looking thing here. I've got to detail it out. So far it's just the main painting is done, but I've got to get in there and paint the wheel sets and you know, clean up a little bit of the overspray here on the paint that happened. So that's not a big deal. I've got a truck I'm going to use as a recycled material scrap metal truck. So they're attached right now, but they weren't supposed to be. There's actually, I put a pin on there. So the glue must have set on them, but I'll separate those two. But there's that. This bed will actually go up. It was 3D printed that way, but that's not the way I'm using it, obviously. Okay, working on another low boy here. So he's gonna be obviously, I've got the base colors on here, but he hasn't been detailed out yet either. So we'll need to get that taken care of. Look good for a piece of equipment sitting on it, but I've got to get the bed itself, and then I've got to finish cleaning up the paint on the vehicle. So then I've got a high rail excavator. I'm going to try to make this so that I can make this thing turn. I'm going to do it with just a little bit of wire holding it together, but it's got the railroad wheels, which I glued on this morning, and then I've got to obviously detail this guy out as well. This you're going to get to see a lot of. This is a plow truck. I've got the, once again, basic colors are on. It needs detailed out, but the reason I said you're going to see a lot of this is he is going to be on the upcoming diorama where I'm going to be showing you guys how I do snow. So I know I've talked about it. I've said it a bunch of times that we're going to do it. It is going to be probably the next video. I have all of the material now that I need to do it. So coming up, that'll be the next how-to video, is how to do snow. And the problem with that video is going to be there is so many different types of snow. I know you're going to say, what do you mean there's different types? I'll explain it all in the video, but it's coming up. So anyway, I want to get this guy finished up before the before that video, because he's going to be central on it. Then I got these. These are just highway construction barrels. They obviously haven't gotten any painting love yet, but that's coming. And then I've got two loaders. These loaders are positionable. They're still on their sprue because I'm using that to paint. So here's a log loader version, and then here is a the front loader version. So very similar model here as far as the base goes. Just got different ends on it. So still working on those, obviously. No detail in them yet, just getting them painted. Now, one of the other things you may be noticing here is that there is some Liquitex acrylic ink. Never used it before. That's because I never really had a need to. And then I I sort of changed my whole painting style and got myself one of these babies. That's right, we finally got into the modern era of modeling, and I broke down and bought myself an airbrush. It's a dual action airbrush, which is pretty much the only thing that I would recommend buying. I've been doing research on them, and this one was a good starter kit. So believe it or not, this is a Harbor Freight model. It's by a company called Avanti. I'm not going to do a review on it. There are plenty of reviews on YouTube. You can go and check them out, but it's got a little tiny compressor. There it is, sitting right there, and you know, it works wonderfully. I have had no issues with it. Now, I'm not necessarily a skilled spray painter. This is my first run into spray painting, but I will tell you, I'm having a blast with it. I can't believe I ever tried painting without one, and now that I have one, I will probably never go back. Obviously, in N scale, we get tiny little details, and you do need to paint those tiny little details by hands with the, of course, tiny little brushes. But short of that, everything is going to be going airbrush from here on in. It's the coolest way to paint. So, yep, finally got on board with that, and after months and months and months and months of researching, I finally just bit the bullet and got myself an airbrush. So, no, it's not top of the line. You know, the whole kit was $120, you know, plus Uncle Sam there. So it's not your top end brush, but for somebody like me who is learning, it's perfect. And you know, a lot of people, one of the things that sort of turned me away from them for so long, when you hear people complaining about having to clean their airbrush. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't see what the big deal is with cleaning an airbrush. I've had no issue with it. It comes apart very easily. It goes together very easily. No, it's not as easy as cleaning off just a paintbrush, you know, where you swish it in some water or some turpentine and be done with it. But it's, I mean, to field strip an airbrush, clean all the parts and put it back together, it doesn't take that long, you know. So it's not that big of a deal. And you know, field stripping equipment is not something that's foreign to me, so maybe I'm just looking at it as going, well, this is easier than what I'm usually taking apart. But you know, I'm just saying, if that's one of the reasons you've been putting off an airbrush, stop putting off an airbrush. Get it. You're gonna have a blast with it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So that is pretty much the February update. So between all these 3D printed little guys here and the airbrush, the microtrains set, and then of course most of it's been stuck in wiring, those toggle switches, and I will be very, very, very happy when that project is done. I'm hoping to get it done in March, but I'm also avoiding trying to go back and doing it because it's been painful. So maybe it won't get done in March. I don't know yet, but in any event, that's what's coming up. So these vehicles will make their presence known here on the layout in the not too distant future. So I finally have a reason for having those two big cranes that have been in all the videos just sort of sitting by themselves. So the whole intention was that this 3D print would be carrying something for those cranes, so I can start setting that scene up. And then my scrap scene gets a new truck. So we'll go do a little more detail there. All right, that is going to be a wrap for February. And we will be back here next time you see us. We'll be talking about doing some snow in March, and then of course the March update. So all right, everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.